Hi, I'm Jack, and I will be your presenter for this session. This presentation discusses how course correction can be quickly implemented when learners are not demonstrating the performance level that was expected. The course under discussion is being taught in the business department of an international university in Cambodia. The target audience are the members of the school's business faculty. In this presentation, the course requiring corrective measures will be explained, along with the course content. Methods for assessing student engagement in the materials and in their understanding of content will be discussed. Qualitative and quantitative evaluation procedures are then explained. The presentation then discusses how analytics were used to compare the actual results against the expectations established during the course design. Serious deviations from expectations require corrective measures. Finally, it is incumbent upon the instructor to determine the effectiveness of the corrections. The course being taught that is under discussion is part of the Business Statistics program and is titled Normal Continuous Distribution. It is a problem-solving course, teaching students how to determine the population size under the curve based on the mean and the standard deviation. This course attempts to reach the multiple intelligences of learners and keep them engaged by utilizing a broad range of content. A detailed text explanation is provided, as are a series of video presentations. In addition to informing the learner, interactive presentations involve the learner in the process and allow them to self-assess their understanding of the material. Discussion boards provide students with a forum for learner-learner interaction with the purpose of applying their new knowledge. Assessments are interspersed throughout the course. They fall into 4 categories: quizzes and exams, which measure the learner's ability to apply the knowledge and problem solve; self-assessments in the form of interactive presentations lets the learner determine where their efforts should be concentrated. Questionnaires are pre-course, post-course, and in-course surveys which sets learner expectations and identifies problem areas. Discussion boards, as already mentioned, is another method of assessing learner progress. This course is conducted in a manner to segment the material into logical, digestible chunks, where each chunk of the content follows a progression that scaffolds the learner's understanding. With the use of Bloom's revised taxonomy, the objective is to stimulate learners' cognitive processes to reach a higher order of thinking. As each chunk of content is provided, the learner has the opportunity to interact with it. We first need to know if the content is aligned with learning objectives and whether it is achieving its objective. This is particularly important if the content has never been used before, or if it has never been used for this type of learner. We need to make sure the content aligns with the learning theory. It should be promoting active learning. It should meet the needs of multiple intelligences. It should be at the appropriate learning level. It should be engaging and stimulating. All of these factors go into the design. So how do we know if the content met the expectations set forth in the design? The question bears repeating. How do we know if the content that was so carefully designed achieved what was expected? Let's break this discussion into 4 distinct areas: student performance, student surveys, student feedback, and analytics. We'll discuss each of them separately. Student performance will be measured by scoring a broad range of assessments: quizzes, exams, and discussion boards. As each assessment is completed, we must evaluate each learner's performance. If it is acceptable, no remedial action is necessary. However, if learner performance is unacceptable, the learner is contacted and reminded that the instructor is available to provide whatever help may be needed. Student surveys are one of the best ways to gain qualitative information on a course. This is especially useful when a course or content is being introduced for the first time. Students have the opportunity to criticize the course, indicate problems, and make suggestions. Problems and suggestions should be immediately reviewed and considered for course revision. Surveys should be anonymous and treated as such. They should be voluntary and follow the ethical policy of doing no harm to the participants. Direct student feedback is another important way to identify problems with course content. It is vital that students have an easy and effective method of interacting with the instructor. Any exchange between the instructor and student should be specific, sensitive, and encouraging. The instructor should ideally reference a skill or specific knowledge. All responses to student feedback should be given in a timely manner. Analytics are statistical data that is compiled to provide valuable quantitative information about online learners. Analytics can indicate when an exam question is resulting in an overly large number of incorrect answers. It can indicate which content is not being used by the learner, and it can do trend analysis to indicate positive and negative patterns in learner behavior. After following the course design, assessing and evaluating the learners and the course content, I was faced with a situation. Halfway through the course, analytics indicated that 2 students weren't participating regularly in course activities. These same students performed very poorly on the discussion board assignments and on the 2 assessments. I was given no indication from student surveys suggesting any serious problems, and these students have not tried to contact me to let me know of any difficulties they were having. At this point, it was evident that corrective measures were necessary. First, I had to determine what immediate remedial action can be taken to change these students' behavior and improve their performance. Then I had to reevaluate the course to figure out what needed to be changed so this situation is less likely to occur in the future. Once I determined that immediate remedial action was necessary for these 2 students, I had to decide on the best course of action. Chickering and Gamson's principles are important to keep in mind. First, encourage contact with the students. After some interaction with the learners, I discovered that their problems stemmed from poor English comprehension. They couldn't understand the text or the interactive presentations and were uncomfortable expressing their problem. Next, I had to develop greater cooperation between students. Several of the best performing students were contacted and asked if they'd be willing to assist these students and explain the material to them in their native language. In this way, I respected students' diverse abilities and was capable of setting higher expectations. To minimize the likelihood of these same problems reoccurring in future courses, some adjustments are necessary. New content should be added that is specifically geared for learners with low English comprehension levels. Existing content should be revised to simplify the wording so it is more easily understood. Student surveys should be revised to help identify students with any type of learning disability. Analytics should be reviewed earlier in the course and with greater frequency so potential problems can be identified as early as possible. If you're interested in the fate of the 2 problem students, I'm happy to report that 2 of the top Cambodian-speaking students in the class agreed to assist the 2 underachievers, helping them better understand the course content. For the last half of the course, these students were far more actively engaged in assignments and showed remarkable improvements in performance. This marks the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.